Well, do you know what Rolos are? Rolos are those little cone-shaped candies with caramel in the middle. They are so good. And I don't know if you have them where you're from, but you buy these and there's about usually 6 or 7, and you just take them. They're just delicious. Well, today on this American Thanksgiving Day, we are going to do some random recovery Rolos for you. Hopefully just some thoughts that you'll find helpful as you look at gaining traction in your recovery this week. Welcome aboard.
Guys ready?
When it comes to porn, are you stuck, spinning out, or slipping backwards in your life? If so, then welcome to the Finding Traction podcast, a show dedicated to those who are looking to gain recovery momentum away from porn and toward the life and relationships they have always hoped for. Now, here's your host, Vern Tomke.
Well, I want to wish all of my American friends a happy American Thanksgiving. And one of my guys that I coach says, it's just not an American holiday without a parade. And I says, you guys have parades for everything down there. You have, and it's just like, yes, of course we do. Parades are what we do. So, again, it's American parades. I think today's the Macy parade. I also was talking to another guy that I'm coaching, and he says, oh, man, I'm going to be traveling across, flying across the country for Thanksgiving. And now we have our Thanksgiving back in October. And I said, now let me get this straight. You are flying from one side of the continent all the way to the other side of the continent for 3 days. Going through crowded airports, you're flying back for Thanksgiving, and then you're getting back in a crowded airport after 3 days, and you're flying all the way back. He says, yep, that's what we do. And then we do it all again at Christmas time, So again, I will say that it's good to celebrate. You guys have that down. And again, happy Thanksgiving. I'm actually, obviously, I'm on the north of the border. I'm Canadian, but I'm a little bit American on American Thanksgiving because when I grew up, I was, of course, I'm a Cowboy fan, and Cowboys always play on Thursday, Thanksgiving afternoon. And of course, we don't have a holiday that day. So we, of course, had to go to school. Well, it was the one day of the year that my mom let me stay home from school. So I would stay home from school on American Thanksgiving, and I would watch football. So I'm a little bit American on American Thanksgiving, and today that's my plan, to watch 3 good games. And I have American family that live in Washington State and Idaho. Those blue and red states, you probably can't figure out which one's blue and which one's red. But that's kind of what we're doing today. And again, on today, I want to throw, again, just some random recovery ideas by you. And hopefully one of these sticks to you as something that you find helpful as you journey away from porn towards life and relationships that you're always looking for. So here's the first one. First one has to do with what we call soccer, and of course what the rest of the world calls football. And we are, of course, in the middle of World Cup fever right now. And yesterday, I put on the first game of the World Cup. Canada was playing the number 2 team in the world. And now I don't know if Belgium played down to us because we were not ranked that highly. But seriously, we outplayed them. And we could have won that game. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? I mean, literally, it was like 7-1 shots on goal. And everyone was blown away at how well our team played. But so I guess I'm starting to get into a little bit of the World Cup fever. But, okay, you say that's really good, Vern, but what does that have to do with recovery? Well, I was one of the guys in one of my groups he says, do you know that there was an article? It was on CBC, which is our national broadcaster. It'd be like a PBS down there or BBC in England. And there's a really unique thing that happened on the Canadian national team. 7 of the players on the Canadian national team are all from one city in Canada, Brampton, Ontario. You go, why did they all come from one city? Well, they actually come from one soccer program, and almost all of the players are immigrant players who moved to Canada, moved to this town called Brampton, which is incredibly cosmopolitan, and they went to this soccer place. Now, it was really interesting because they interviewed the guy who was behind this soccer program. And when he's an immigrant himself, and I can't remember I think he's from Ghana or but when he showed up and simply to the kids playing soccer, and he offered his services. Now, I wouldn't say we're a horribly racist country, but we have elements of racism, probably like everybody else. And in probably, it was not, he was not given a warm welcome, or he doesn't naturally fit into a Canadian culture where white people are predominant. But there was something about his winsomeness, something about the way he approached them, that they recognized that he not only loved the game, but he had skills in working with kids. And now, and over time, began to lead this soccer program in this Ontario school, this Ontario community. And now, years later, 7 players came out of that program in that one town who've made it and are playing on the national team. I mean, that's just a phenomenal stat. The creme de la creme are all from one place. And it made me think about this. One of the things that all of us are trying to do is we're trying to be skilled at this area of recovery. And far too many of us are trying to figure it out on our own. And I really think it's an amazing example of what a good mentor can do. Peers are important. I mean, we have really good peer relationships in our groups that we work with, and guys encourage one another, and we share tips. But actually somebody who is a good mentor, who can call us on our stuff, not in a shame-filled way, but can simply say, you know what, I know you think this might help you, but I would suggest perhaps a different way. Or can recognize, I tried that and that actually doesn't help long term. Or why don't you try this? This is what helped me be successful. Just like that soccer mentor was able to do. In the same way, a good mentor, which is one of the things a coach can do. Somebody who has been successful, somebody who's been where you've been, and has been as embedded in porn and has been embedded in this stuff and understands it and still knows the difficult struggle that is, but has learned to navigate through successfully, that can impart some of that skill. I mean, that's one of the things that I offer as a coach, that our groups offer, is that kind of mentoring environment. So I'm not sure you're going to get to the World Cup, but I'm just learning some of these players' names I never knew. I don't follow soccer. I'm a American football fan, but again, you might not get to the World Cup, but I would really strongly encourage you that mentoring can make all the difference for you. It made all the difference for me when I got into a group of a guy who had a mentor and also people who had been journeying ahead of me. So that's the first thing. Second thing is so that's just one Rolo. Take that out, put it in your mouth, take a chew, and then let the caramel hopefully begin to ooze out. Very good. Rolos. Apparently you can get mini Rolos too. Now, I don't know if they probably don't have as many calories, which means we eat a lot more than we would when the Rolos were bigger. But so that's Rolo number one. Rolo number two is what I want to, a principle I want to call calculated freedom. Okay, now you've all heard of the term calculated risk, right? That's where you go, okay, how much risk? Usually it's a risk reward thing. But so I'm going to give you a little example from my day. And again, I'm somebody who's been at this for a long time, but I'm still hopefully can give you pointers or things that I'm learning. So yesterday was the World Cup day. Canada was playing Belgium, and it was a Wednesday. My wife was off to teach. So what I said to my wife was, "Hey, can you leave me that one remote control today for the TV? Because I'd love to watch the game." And she said, "You sure you're going to be okay?" I said, "Yeah, I think I'll be okay." And I meant it. She said, "Look," I said, "but ask me when I get home." So I had the remote for the TV. And by the way, what I also did, again, this is just what I did yesterday. I have some of my groups I have on WhatsApp. I WhatsApped 3 or 4 of my groups and said, "Hey guys, I'm home alone with the remote to watch the football game. I'll check in when my wife gets home." And that's what I did. So I was adding another layer of feeling seen. Watch the game, great games, lousy ending, but great game. And by that time it was maybe, 1 o'clock. Now my wife had a late meeting, which means she didn't get home till I think it wasn't till close to 5. And so I stuffed the remote control down between worked on some other stuff, did some bookkeeping and that. But I probably had the thought maybe a dozen times, I could go in and really go through Netflix or Amazon Prime or something on the TV and really check for some erotic material or something like that. But I kept busy, kept focused. Maybe I had that thought a dozen times. So first of all, just for you to know, having the thought doesn't mean anything. It's still, those thoughts still come to me, but in terms of some of the rewiring or things in my brain, they maybe come at a level of 3 or 4 decibels. They're not like a air siren that, So that was all. So that was the day. My wife got home, caught up on our day, and I texted our group, said, "Hey, it was a good day. Sad my team lost, but then there's today. Now today is American Thanksgiving, and as I said to you, there's 3 football games today, but my wife's got to go to school. It's like, what's up with that, right? But I was thinking now to watch those games, I would need a different remote for my smart TV. But I felt like, you know what? Yesterday felt more contested than I liked. And I felt like, you know what? I don't want to take the risk today. You say, well, just watch football. Yeah, I know, but it's my little remote control. It's my smart TV. And for me, that just felt like a 50-50 proposition. Now, I don't know if those figures are right. 50% would I act out, 50% wouldn't I? It probably is not that high. But it just, as a calculated thing, did not feel, it just didn't feel safe for me. And I'm aware of, I just felt it just didn't feel safe. So I said, you know what? Today, the first plan was I'm just going to wait until she comes home, and then I'm going to watch the games. I'll go through the games, and once you skip all the ads, I'll catch up, as long as nobody texts me the score. So that's part of what I'm learning in terms of calculated freedom. Now, early on in my recovery, would I have even taken the remote control to do what I did yesterday? Probably not. Because my environment would have still felt too unsafe. But I felt like yesterday that it was calculated freedom. Okay, I can do that. Here's another thing as an example of maybe a different application of calculated freedom that some of my guys are practicing. Early on, guys, for example, have they've run into huge problems with social media. Whether it's Instagram or TikTok or Twitter, Facebook, whatever. And they continually run into problems with social media. And they just get to a point where they realize, I cannot do social media safely. And early on in their recovery, that is the case. And so all of those are gone. They take all those apps off their phone or their computer and they're gone. Some guys get to a point where they go, you know what? I got one guy that says, you know what? I do use Facebook to check up on my family in a good way. We connect a little bit during using Facebook. He has an iPhone, but then he says, you know, what I've done is I've put a 5-minute time period on my Facebook app. And so for me, that would be an example of calculated freedom. So he says, you know what, I'm usually fine for the first 5 minutes. I go on, I check what my brothers and sisters are up to and all of that. It's usually only when I stay on it, I've noticed that then I start scrolling and I start doing those things and then I run into problems. Now, part of that for him, he said, you know what? So as a result, for me, it's calculated freedom to have 5 minutes on Facebook and then it shuts down and I can't go back on that day. So there's an example. But early on, most guys would go, that's just not going to work for me because I can even in 5 minutes go straight to material that I know is going to be unsound. There you go. There's another Rolo for you. Take that out, chew it. Hopefully there's some caramel still inside. One last Rolo for you here is one of the groups that I'm in. We've been together now for 2-3 years. We're at a point now where we alternate, and different people sometimes bring a teaching topic or a teaching tool. And this last week, one of the guys whose turn it was, he brought an article on. It was on self-centeredness and selfishness. And it was on how addictive behavior is almost always rooted in self-centeredness. And this was written by a medical doctor, so they were using words like narcissistic syndrome and different ways that are, medical terms. Which actually, as an aside, it reminded me and my wife have a joke between us, and whenever we work with a lot of couples over the years, and this is kind of a really not a great joke, but it's funny in its own way. Whenever somebody is broken up with a spouse or has an ex, we used to always remark to each other, it's amazing how people go from just being average people to trained clinical psychologists or psychiatrists. Because I've had guys say to me, you don't know my wife. She's got borderline personality. Or, somebody will say about their ex-husband, he's got narcissistic, personality syndrome. And we're going, everyone becomes an amazing clinical psychologist in diagnosing their ex-partner. But anyways, that's on the side. So those are the ways me and my wife joke. But in this idea, his point was, our addictive lifestyles are always connected with self-centered behavior, selfishness. And it got me thinking, is that true? I mean, a part of me goes, well, I'm not selfish. And then I started thinking about it. Is there any other activity that I would do like porn, that would qualify as selfishness? And the answer was, well, probably not. I mean, let me give an example. Let's say, I have never, for example, when, my wife says, hey, can you pick me up at 12:30? I would never show up at 1 o'clock just to hurt her, or just to leave her waiting there because I knew that, like you're going, what kind of a jerk would do something that would cause your partner pain? Or if we're with a group of friends, I wouldn't, pick on my wife or joke about her in an unflattering way, knowing that it would hurt her. You go, what kind of a jerk would do something that would cause your partner pain? And yet, I had noticed in my life that the addictive nature of porn resulted in me knowingly returning to porn over and over and over again, knowing that it would cause my wife hurt and pain. What other things do I do? I don't do anything else like that. And so you're going, obviously, there is a great degree of self-centeredness behind what I'm doing in the area of pornography. Now, you might say, well, that's what the compulsion does, or the obsession, or that's the nature of addictive behavior. Yeah, fair enough. But at the core, it is a great example, and maybe the only example, of where I choose a selfish, harmful pursuit at the expense of my partner. So, last example from yesterday. So yesterday this was about the 5th time that I was thinking about, I'd really should go back and take that remote control that my wife left with me, and I should look at some stuff. I says, okay, I was reading this and thinking about this article on selfishness and go, well, if selfishness is really a part of why I would act out, I want my needs met, I want my arousal, I want my stimulation, despite the fact of how it's going to make my partner feel. Who cares about how she feels? That's selfishness. So why don't I operate or act in the opposite spirit to that? Well, what is the opposite spirit of selfishness or self-centeredness? Well, it's being a servant. It's being loving. So I looked around and I go, you know what? I can empty the dishwasher and clean it. And empty it and fill it up again. I can clean up the kitchen. Now, I know some of you guys do not want to hear this. What are other ways? So I actually, for about half an hour, I intentionally did things that I know would be serving my wife in ways that would make her feel better, to counteract the selfish impulse that I had to act out. Now, again, I don't know why we want to ever share this podcast with our wives, but my wife came home and she was like, oh, this place looks great. And then instead of me feeling bad at the end of the day, I felt really good about the day. So anyways, last Rolo, take that out, chew into it. Hopefully there's some caramel left, and we'll go from there. So again, those are just some random recovery-related Rolos that hopefully you can chew on today, and have a great Thanksgiving for all of you in the States, and the rest of you just have a great, normal, regular work-filled day. We'll see you next time.